Good morning. Vanakkam. This is Easter Sunday morning, and time is about 7:15 a.m. By now, I have received innumerable Easter greetings, all of them wishing me a happy Easter, a happy Easter, a happy Easter. The word happy struck me very deep. Whether you believe it or not, it pains me. The word happy in the greeting Happy Easter hurt me to the quick. It pricked my heart. And all I want to do in this video is to tell you why. I have to receive, first of all, I'm glad that you remembered me, every one of you who cared to greet me this morning. I'm very grateful. I greatly value your love, your affection, your thoughts. So it's wonderful that you cared to greet me. I have not greeted anyone this morning. I could not bring myself to the point of greeting anyone. That's the reason why. But you have, which means that you're far more positive than I am. But the reason I found it so very difficult to greet or wish happy Easter to anyone, I need to explain to you. Which in a way also will explain why the word happy hurt my heart. On this Easter morning, my mind is full of the weltering images from the theaters of human suffering in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Iran, and in various other parts of the world. Humankind, to which the species to which I belong, is busy manufacturing unhappiness, misery. Not only taking a lot of effort to increase unhappiness in the world, but, which is even more regrettable and embarrassing, deriving a lot of pride from it. It's in this world that I have to somehow experience the happiness of Easter. I'm finding that a little difficult. But let's look a little deeper into this. Why did Jesus have to die on the cross? After all, resurrection comes after crucifixion. So it's impossible to think of or experience Easter in its true sense without also connecting it to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The Gospel of Mark very clearly says, and it records Jesus as saying that he came to die for the sin of the world. Therefore, the question arises, what is the sin of the world? Now, perhaps we can begin to make sense of it by looking at the manifestation or the expression of that sin, which is, as I've just now mentioned, a hugely orchestrated, massive effort to manufacture human misery. And at the same time, every one of us secretly harboring the desire to be happy. This contradiction. Collectively, our pride is in manufacturing unhappiness and misery, in increasing and intensifying it to the highest possible degree, and in taking pride about our ability to do so. But individually and secretly, every one of us longs to live in happiness, in peace, in mutual brotherhood, in good neighborly relationships, and so on and so forth. We long not only to be loved, but also to love. As Mother Teresa said, the greatest poverty in the world is the poverty of not being loved. I would go a step further and say that the greatest poverty in the world is not the poverty of being unloved, but the poverty of not being able to love. In fact, the state of everyone being unloved results from the human incapacity to love. Perhaps that is the reason why the duty to love is turned into a commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your soul, with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your strength. The second is like unto the first, love your neighbor as yourself. Somehow we find it so very difficult to love our neighbor, even love our brothers and sisters. But who is not our brother, who is not our sister? So it has to be turned into a commandment. At the same time, we all long to be loved. So put very simply, the peculiarity in human nature is that we want to be loved without the duty to love in return. This is, I believe, the reason why the world is full of misery. We have become incapable of wholesome reciprocity. Now, to understand this, let me use an illustration from the gospel. I'm not doing this video keeping Christians in mind. I don't think of anyone in terms of a religious label because I believe that spirituality is universal, God is universal, truth is universal, love is universal, everything that is valuable is universal. The sun is universal, water is universal, air is universal, nature is universal. It's only petty men and women who cannot understand the larger rhythms of life, who create small labels and think that they have made a great contribution to humanity by sticking it on everybody's forehead. So let me use an illustration from the gospel. The illustration is a parable that Jesus used. This is a parable of the Pharisee and the publican. Two people went to the temple to pray. One was a Pharisee, a self-righteous priestly character. A Pharisee, strictly speaking, is not a priest, but he is part of the priestly network. He's basically a teacher. The second is a publican. Publican is a tax collector whom the Jewish society hated because all tax collectors were stooges and collaborators with the force of occupation, the colonizer, which was Rome at that time. So they were considered traitors. Therefore, they were objects of intense hatred. So Jesus brings together these two characters. One, the pride of the Jewish society. The other, the object of hatred as far as the Jews were concerned. The two are brought together in the temple. Both of them are praying. The Pharisee prays first, and he thanks God for not making him like this Pharisee. Now, the publican pours out his heart in acknowledgement of his very miserable plight. But Jesus says it was the publican who went home justified. Now, what is the point of this parable? And how does it connect to the Easter message, the happiness that Easter actually can encapsulate? Now, the fact of the matter is, though the Pharisee does not realize it, the Pharisee is building a contrast between himself and the publican. He says, I thank you that I'm not like him. The fact of the matter is that this publican whom the Pharisee hates in public, or about whom the Pharisee expresses its hatred, his revulsion, is truly an aspect of himself. In the eye of God, or in the eyes of God, the Pharisee and the publican are one and the same. The publican, the sinner, the man who in the eyes of the Pharisee is a sinner, is an aspect of the Pharisee himself. The tragedy of our nature, the tragedy of human nature is that our nature is so intensely polarized that we are not able to connect the two. Now, for example, Jesus says, love your enemy. The psychological truths embedded in the teaching of Jesus Christ, which the whole world finds so difficult to follow, is that you and your enemy are two sides of the same coin. And that is the truth. And Jesus says the truth will set you free. But the one thing that the world as it is organized today, based on human nature, which, as I said, is intensely polarized, one half despising the other. It's like my one hand despising the other hand, saying, I would like to have nothing to do with you. Get lost. That's a contradiction that human nature is at the moment. So the moment realization comes about, the moment the truth dawns on us, that we and our enemies are the same, together we constitute the complete picture. A new light of reconciliation will take place. Now, as far as the Pharisee in this parable that I've talked about is concerned, he is simply incapable of such a reconciliation. That's the reason why he goes home condemned. Whereas the publican or the sinner or the man who is condemned or labeled or stigmatized as sinner by the Pharisee is capable of that reconciliation. If an opportunity is given to the sinner to be reconciled with the Pharisee, he will accept it. But if the same opportunity is given to the Pharisee, namely the opportunity to be reconciled with the sinner, the Pharisee will scorn it. That's the reason why the Pharisee can never be justified in the eyes of God. Whereas the sinner has some chance, the Pharisee has none. This is the insight of Jesus Christ. This is not what I'm saying. I'm simply interpreting the parable that Jesus taught. Now, Easter, the Easter event is fundamentally a reconciliation. A reconciliation of the two polarized aspects of life. For example, life and death are two sides of the same coin. Though in this world we are trying to think that they're irreconcilable opposites. How can there be life without death? And how can there be death without life? But we never think of it that way. Life and death together complete the picture of our existence in this world, which is time-bound because we are mortals. So there is reconciliation there. There is also the reconciliation between God and humankind. There's a reconciliation between hope and hopelessness. When Jesus was crucified and he was laid in the tomb, his disciples sank to the very depth of despair. They were in a state of utter hopelessness. Resurrection reconciles hope with hopelessness. Wherever there is hopelessness, there is hope. In this context, let me share with you an insight from Chinese philosophy. The Chinese worldview depends on two symbols, yang and yin, Y-A-N-G, yang, and yin, Y-I-N. Easy to remember. The symbol of Doordarshan is made up of yang and yin. And Indian patriots don't know that it is Chinese. And therefore, they're not creating a riot about it. So yang and yin. Now, yang is the light principle, yin is the dark principle. So the insight embedded in this yang yin worldview or philosophy of life is that when darkness reaches its top, its zenith, light begins already. The seed of light is contained in the very ascendancy of darkness. Likewise, the seed of darkness is contained in the ascendancy of light. Now, the Greeks intuited the same idea through the wheel of fortune. Human life, according to the Greek view, is governed by the principle of chance. So, human destiny is pictured as a grand wheel which is turned by an old hag, an old withered lady. So, what happens is the wheel rotates. So, those who are at the bottom of the wheel slowly rise and come to the top. But the moment they are at the top, they know that they have to come down. So, at the highest point of your success, your prosperity, your happiness, your achievement, your power, the seed of your downfall is already sprouting. It was this that Jesus, in his own inimical fashion, said, those who are first will be last, and the last will be first. You can understand it only if you understand the wheel of fortune, the yin-yang philosophy of China. So the point I'm making is the two together constitute the complete picture. Europeans imagined history in the form of a pendulum, the movement of history in the form of a pendulum. The pendulum swings from one extreme to the other, pendulum. So when the pendulum reaches this extreme, already the seed of the opposite movement is present, is becoming active. That's a beautiful thing. The pendulum swings to this extent, comes to the maximum possible extent, and at its maximum possible swing, the energy to go in the opposite direction is already active. So at the highest point of the movement in one direction also becomes the birth of the force in the opposite direction. Together, they constitute the pendular swing. You can't imagine a pendulum which swings only in one direction. Then that's not a pendulum. Pendulum, by definition, is something that swings both ways. And the problem with human nature is that we have become a pendulum which swings only in one direction. I've done a few videos already and shared them with you, saying that the real flaw, the real problem, the real perversion in human nature is one-sidedness or unilateralism. We can only think of ourselves, we can't think of our neighbor. Now think of the pendulum and then examine the teaching of Jesus Christ, which is also derived from the Jewish tradition: love your neighbor as yourself. Now, your self-love is the swing of the pendulum to the left extreme. But at that point precisely, you must also swing in the opposite direction. Self and neighbor. Self and neighbor. Yourself, your enemy. Whatever is the opposite, that is the secret of peace, happiness, joy, and fulfillment in life. So long as you remain in this wicked, sinful, perverse state where you think that reality can be sliced comfortably into two, my comfortable half and my uncomfortable half which you take, that is yours. We have nothing to do with each other. There'll be no peace in this world. So the fundamental truth which needs to be recognized on the Easter day is the truth that you and I are one, Interestingly, this is exactly the truth that the Hindu seers in the ancient of days discovered. The Advaita philosophy, Tattvamasi, that thou art. The man standing there and you, no matter who that is, he may be a Chandala, he may be a Dalit, he may be a Muslim, he may be a communist, he may be a congressman, he may be a Trinamool congressman. Tattvamasi, that thou art. He and you are the same. But philosophy goes one way, politics another way, and human nature becomes a theater of hatred, violence, and malevolence. Unless and until we recognize this reality, there can be no peace in this world, there can be no Easter. It was because the custodians of the Judaic system did not understand this truth. The truth, for example, that Jesus highlights by going into the land of Samaritans, whom the Jews hated. By and large, the Jews divided the world into two unequal halves. The Jews, chosen race, all the rest, Gentiles. And God will have no mercy, no regard, no caring for you. All of God's love, affection, attention will be concentrated on the Jews because they are the chosen race. This was a most blatant lie. And all the suffering of the Jewish race over the last several years, over 3,000 years, is because of this rotten idea. The reality can be divided into two, and you can take your part and then forget about the rest. Jesus is a living protest against this because he is the truth. Truth is the complete picture. So he insists on wholeness, completeness. So he goes into the Samaritan land just to open the eyes of the Jews to see that they and the Samaritans together constitute the Jewish race. After all, the Samaritans were also Jews. The so-called pure Jews came to detest the Samaritans because they were accused of compromising the purity, like in India, like in Kerala. The Christians who believe that their blood is pure, the Canaanite Christians in Kottayam, they will have no truck or traffic with any other Christian because the blood of others is impure. The blood of the Canaanite Christians is very pure. This kind of nonsense goes on and on. Unfortunately, people are in the habit of multiplying this nonsense because of the perversity of human nature. But unfortunately, we don't have the discernment to see that this is perversity, this is sin, this is wickedness. On the other hand, we mistake it for piety. We mistake it for faithfulness, loyalty, commitment to purity. This is the absolute impurity. If you understand the life and teachings of Jesus Christ, if you understand the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and therefore also the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now for a moment, consider what's happening around us. Let's concentrate in the interest of clarity and brevity on Gaza. On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas unleashed the most brutal attack on the Jews. Completely inexcusable, absolutely horrendous. It cannot be justified under any circumstances. But what has happened after that? In response, Israel unleashes the most horrendous attack on Hamas. Why? Because they are in a position to do so. Why did Hamas attack the Jews? Israelis? Because they were in a position to do so, because the Jews were not adequately protected. They were least vigilant, therefore they could go and do it, perpetrate this massacre and come back. After that, why did the Jews attack, the Israelis attack Palestinians in Gaza? Because they could do so. But the point to be realized is this, which nobody is talking about. From my point of view, both the Israelis and the Palestinians are identical, exactly the same. Now there will be peace in Gaza, and Jews and Palestinians will be able to live in peace, coexist in harmony, only if they realize that they're exactly the same. And the one thing they are refusing to accept is that they are the same. Rather, they dogmatically insist that one is the opposite of the other, which is the reason why both parties with equal intensity feel convinced, and they state with great emphasis that they cannot coexist. One can live only if the other is exterminated. Hamas would say you have no right to live. Israel would say you have no right to live. Both are identical. Both are identical. The same pattern exists vis-a-vis Israel and Iran. Both are identical. Both are identical. Now, it's very interesting, for example, that there is a lot of enmity between America and Russia. A lot of enmity. But Trump and Putin are the best of pals. Why? Because they have realized they're identical. And from there, I wish that realization would spread that Americans and Russians are also identical. They're exactly the same. Both would like to dominate the world. India and Pakistan are sworn enemies. Why? Because we're identical. There was a time when hatred towards Pakistan was not so intense. But after the Sangh Parivar via BJP captured power in India, the enmity between India and Pakistan intensified because the outlook of the Sangh Parivar and the outlook of Pakistan are identical. This is the truth. I know this is not a comfortable truth. It's not a politically correct statement to make, but this is the truth. And only if the truth is recognized can we live in peace. Because Jesus said the truth will set you free. And to me, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, whether it is scientifically true or not, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me, frankly. But I value the resurrection of Jesus Christ because to me, it states something of immense value which humanity can never let die. And that is, truth will triumph. Truth will triumph even over death. And therefore, it is not Jesus, the person, the body of Jesus Christ that resurrects. It is the truth that he embodies that resurrects. Because no man has any authority over it. Not even death, not even hell has any authority over it. It's on that foundation that Jesus Christ envisaged the church to be established. But whether or not that remains to be the case, I leave it to you. But therefore, I hope I have provided some context within which the mechanical, habitual tendency to wish happy Easter can be understood. Happiness will never come to us just like that. We must understand why we are so unhappy and why we take the maximum pride in manufacturing unhappiness, and why, in spite of this perversion in our nature, and without wanting to do anything about it, we still go on wishing each other happy Easter, happy Christmas, happy Onam, happy Diwali, so on and so forth. Whereas all our efforts, all our resources, all our ingenuity, all our genius is dedicated to manufacturing mega misery and unhappiness. This contradiction needs to be faced because that's the truth. Truth alone triumphs. Satyameva Jayate Nanodam. Thank you.